Hey, y'all. This is the Fishing Business Podcast, and I'm happy you found your way here today to spend some time with us. If there was ever a person that was destined to work in the fishing industry, it's today's guest. Her father was a professional angler, her brother is a tournament angler, and her mother, who's also one of my heroes, was a professional angler. In fact, her mother came within a smidge of qualifying for the 2007 Bassmaster Elite Series through the Bassmaster Opens. I'm talking about the Mies family from Arkansas, and Melinda Mize is with us today on the Fishing Business Podcast. I hope you're comfortable wherever you're listening to this or watching this today, because I think you're going to be glued to your device. Melinda's very direct. She has shepherded many professional anglers into their careers, and she shares her knowledge generously. This girl knows her stuff. So here we go, y'all. Hey, this is the Fishing Business Podcast, y'all. I'm glad you're here today. Our guest is Melinda Mize. And I've known Melinda. I think I may have known you since you were like 19. Could that be possible?
Yeah, at least probably 17 or 19, somewhere around in that range.
Right. Melinda's father was a professional fisherman. I actually knew her mom and her father before I really knew her as well. And I think we saw each other at tournaments when you would come. And you've been fishing since you were a mere child yourself, haven't you?
Yes. I mean, I don't remember not fishing. I always said that a Ranger bass boat was my cradle because that's what they had for so many years starting out. And that's why I don't get, seasick.
Yeah, that's right. I love that. Well, Melinda has had a variety of roles in the fishing industry. Her most recent role is in marketing at Huk, which is outdoor performance apparel. We're shooting this during the coronavirus, and she is currently on furlough, unfortunately, but hopefully she'll be back at Huk real soon. Prior to that, you were at Costa Del Mar. What was your title at Huk and at Costa, Melinda?
So Huk, I'm the freshwater fishing community manager.
Okay.
And then Costa, I was the bass fishing community leader. So. Okay. No similar roles at Huk. It was just more encompassing of managing all freshwater.
Okay, so I love to ask people this. How would you explain what you do to your grandparents?
Oh, my goodness.
Or to an alien from another planet? How would you explain what you do?
So how I best explain it is that I build excitement for the brand in the fishing community. And that is through every single touch point, from social media to going to events, to who we sponsor at those events, as far as anglers, leaders in the community and who we work with. Goodness, you name it. Help get feedback from these anglers to make our brand better and better communicate with those anglers through that. It's anything that can literally make not only the brand better, but the industry better as a whole. So you want to make a difference while you're working too. And that's something that has always been so important for me at the brands I work at, is that they were always wanting to give back through conservation or through youth programs or get more women involved with the sport. And so that was one of my jobs, is to build relationships throughout the community. And it's not just the things that you see, it's everything behind the scenes to make a positive impact too.
Right.
So that was a lot of words.
Well, but it's still, it's interesting. I think people out there might find it interesting. We think about marketing jobs as, someone who looks at who figures out what the ads are going to be and what the logo looks like but there are a lot of different marketing jobs in the fishing industry. Agreed?
Oh, so much. And so I do a lot of that. But so much more of it is built on relationships and how you can build excitement, more so than just the things that are how to make your brand prettier.
What else had you done before Costa? Talk a little bit about your background and your journey into this field. So
growing up, I always knew that I wanted to work in the fishing industry. Just traveling with my parents, I met so many incredible people. And actually, one of the companies that really founded my passion was seeing how the people from Strike King Lure Company treated everyone out there. it was incredible. So you met Alan Ransom along the way, and then Chris Brown was there, and he worked with all the pros, and they loved their job, but it just really translated on how they treated people. And that's what I wanted to do. Well, I deployed, and I actually graduated with my marketing degree while I was deployed for the National Guard. So whenever I came home, I think you kind of have a little hiccup there in your life where you don't know what you're doing. And it took me a little while, and I had a hard time getting in the industry. So I was working retail, of all things, and I worked for Gander Mountain for 6 years, worked for Dick's Sporting Goods for a year, and I decided to go to law school. I mean, complete change of pace from the bass fishing industry to go to law school. So,
oh my gosh.
I know it. So, I mean, it's such a tangled web. And I go back, I get a political science degree from the University of Arkansas at Little Rock, whole different change of pace, get into law school. And of all times, I had just found out that I got into U of A and the Euler. And I was trying, I don't know what happened, but I was trying to make a decision in between the two. Well, I got invited from Dick's Sporting Goods to work the Bassmaster Classic. And while I was there, I met two companies, and they both said, why don't you apply for a job with us? And I was like, I'm not interested. I'm changed my life. I'm going to law school. And they're like, no, seriously, we love your attitude. We love your passion. And I was like, well, it's what I've always wanted to do, but I think I'm going to go to law school. I've worked my tail off to do this, get a scholarship. I don't think I need to do that. Well, I went back, and it just kept weighing on my mind. Do I want to work in my passion, or do I want to argue for a living?
Oh.
And, and I kept going back and forth about it. And so I ended up calling one of the companies, and it was Pradco Outdoor Brands up in Fort Smith, Arkansas.
Oh my gosh, I completely forgot you worked at Pradco.
Yes, I did.
Yes.
And so I went and interviewed, and a couple of weeks later, I started there.
Yeah.
So completely threw away going to law school. And I started working at Pradco, and I spent 4 years there, and it just helped build the foundation. It's funny that another lure company is what sparked the passion. Then I ended up at Pradco.
At one of their competitors.
Being a competitor, which is odd to me.
Yeah.
But it was wonderful because I learned so many things, and then ended up at Costa 4 years later. They just had an opening, and they talked to me about applying, and I did that. And what the coolest thing about Costa and why I felt like I really wanted to be there was I used to tell my boss at Pradco all the time, I want to make a difference.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm telling that, I really feel like you can do that even while you're making money. And he was like, I know. And then when I went to interview at Costa, he interviewed with 15 people. I was like, oh my gosh.
Oh my gosh.
Marketing team. It was overwhelming. They did it like 2 at a time or 1 at a time. And then one time there were three of the teammates, and they're interviewing me. And this one lady, her name's Terry Hanna, and she's fantastic. She looked at me dead in the eye, and she said, what would you do to make a difference? And I went, this is where I'm meant to be. So those 4 years at Costa were incredible. And I thought that we were able to do a lot of things that made a positive impact. And that was really.
You sure did.
So.
You sure did. You did a lot of interesting and very unique things there that definitely made a big impact. In fact, I still have the little containers that y'all gave away where you were trying to encourage people not to use plastic bottles.
Yes. I still have a lot of cups in my house that I use that are reusable, that you can freeze and smash. They're made by another cool company named Silly Pint that we worked with and partnered with. But it was just ways to think about things differently.
Right. And I think Costa brought that whole ethos into the bass fishing world, whereas nobody else, I don't think, was doing it in the same way that Costa did. And you were a big part of that. You did a great job.
I loved it. Definitely. And I think that it's just something that's really permeated what I want to do, moving forward from here, is just to continue to think about things differently to where we can make bass fishing as a whole better.
I love that. Okay, we're going to take a quick break, but before we do that, I want to ask you, I ask everybody this, what's something that's not on your resume or your LinkedIn profile that people might be surprised to know about you?
So I'm 5'4", and I have a high voice, really girly, but I'm actually a junior Olympic gold medalist in sparring in
Oh
Taekwondo.
my God. What does that mean? What is sparring?
In Taekwondo.
Oh, wow. That's so cool, Melinda. I love that.
I think people know that about me, and it's completely random, but it is what I did for many years. And
That's
I got
great.
it really big.
Well, so nobody mess with Melinda. That's what I'll tell y'all, because she might be able to flip you onto the floor. Hey, we're going to stop right here and take a quick break. We'll be right back. We got a great hour lined up with Melinda. You guys are going to love all the things that she shares with you. Stay with us. Hey, if you're enjoying this podcast, check out fishingbusinessschool.com, where you can see video uploads of the podcast, as well as my blog, where I give you more practical advice on the business side of fishing. fishingbusinessschool.com. Come see me over there. All right, we're back on the Fishing Business Podcast. Our guest today is Melinda Mize. You may recognize the name Mies. There's a lot of Mises in the fishing world. Her father's Jimmy Mies. He was a professional angler for years and years. Her mom is Lucy Mies. Lucy was a professional angler, wasn't she, Melinda?
Yes, for years. She was a professional angler before my dad was.
Oh, wow, that's right. I remember that. That's right. And your brother, I can't remember your brother's name.
His name's Matt.
Matt, that's right. Matt Mize also fishes a lot in tournaments and all around the Arkansas and in the area. And does he fish on FLW?
He used to. So whenever he was 23, I think he won what was a Rayovac series.
Oh yeah.
So it's FLW series sponsored by Toyota now. So
right. Yeah, that's a big deal. So we talked earlier that you are in the military and you deployed. Were you combat deployed?
Yeah, so I deployed to the Kuwait-Iraq border. And so it was Camp Beer in Kuwait. And I was on a 10-man specialized team where we ran Udari Army Airfield over there.
Wow. Wow. Were you there during the invasion or after?
There, 06-07. And so at the end of 2006 is when the surge happened, whenever things kind of got real hairy. And so I was there. That happened, and we pushed 30,000 troops over there in a matter of a month.
Wow.
So it was pretty incredible.
Yeah, incredible time to be over there. How did that experience in the military affect you in the fishing business world?
I think it's more perspective and an everyday perspective, and it's not taking anything for granted and just really enjoying it. And I met so many people through the military experience that I was able to build relationships with. So I think I've took that a lot, just the relationships and the perspective of enjoying every day and enjoying what you do and making the most of what you do and really apply it to what I do in the fishing industry.
Right. You know, a lot of our listeners are interested in working in the fishing industry, whether it's as a professional angler or just getting a job in the fishing industry. And a lot of people have come to it in different ways. It's very interesting to me, though, that several of the marketing people that I have talked to on this podcast have started at retail. Isn't that interesting? Like, I think 4 out of the last 5 people have started at retail.
So whenever I was working retail, I kind of felt like I wasn't doing anything. You know, I wasn't really bettering myself. And I think I diminished my worth, my own self-worth, thinking that, because there's so many incredible things that you learn working at retail. Mm-hmm. Because you're learning what the customer really wants, what drives them to purchase. You also learn a lot of great knowledge about how things are merchandised on pegs or they're merchandised on the shelves. So whenever you have to make packaging decisions one day, you're able to make it in a lot better manner because you know what your company's looking for,
right,
as well as the customer. So you have all these different perspectives where if you're just sitting behind a desk getting ready to design packaging, you don't think of maybe we need to do packaging that takes up less retail space because it's more efficient for the people that are selling it,
right.
because they can make more money per square foot if we make our packaging better. And then you also think about how things are presented. There's a lot of things that I learned working in retail that I had no idea how much it would help me in my career. Yeah. And it has been, I'm thankful for that background. I would actually encourage anyone who is looking to get in this industry, for any manufacturer to spend some time at retail, because it's just a whole different outlook on things. You can look at it from such a different perspective knowing that. And I think it also, I've been in many discussions with buyers from those retailers and in the past, and I've been able to have better conversations just because I understood more.
Right. What about making contacts? Is that a good way? You know, a lot of people ask me, how do I network if I don't know anybody in the fishing business world? How do I network and make contacts? Is retail a good way to do that?
I think it is a good way, essentially, but I would tell them the number one way is to attend bass tournaments. Right. And I'm talking about the big ones. Go to Bassmaster, go to the Classic, go to FLW Tour, go to BPT tournaments. I would suggest that, number one. And the reason is you're getting to understand what those brand representatives do. You're getting to understand what they how they portray the brand. So maybe do you like how that brand is? You know, you want to work somewhere where you agree too. But I think going to those tournaments is probably the biggest networking that I could say for someone to do. And it's because it allows you to get to know a lot of those brand representatives and actually have a great conversation with them. You know, okay. I think
let's get a little more tactical than that. If you're saying to go to a bass tournament, what do they do when they go to the bass? They go up and introduce themselves to someone? Do they tell them, hey, I'm a tournament fisherman, or hey, I want to work in the industry one day? What's your advice there?
I definitely say do both. But the number one key is to be prepared. So have your resume with you even, or have a business card that you've made. Mm-hmm. That would be, present yourself the way you want to be seen too. Right. And that is, you know, you don't have to wear a suit. That's not what this industry is about. Right. Number one, be comfortable, be who you are, but also know who you are whenever you show up, but also respect them. So if they're real busy at that time, don't go then. Try to catch them maybe right as the weigh-in starts or something, whenever they have a little break, or right whenever it's really starting to get going for the day and there's not a lot of people there. And take a minute, introduce yourself, tell them what you're wanting to do. Like if you're wanting to be an angler, or you're wanting to be, have a job in the industry, and just tell them, you know, who you are and what your goals are. But right. Make sure that, number one, that they're not busy, because they have a lot of their goals to meet while they're there. And that is to meet as many people as they can for their brand. But definitely have everything that you can, but I would, you know, like a business card that you can share.
Okay, let me ask you this. If you are a good angler in your area, does it make sense to go to a Bass Pro Shops or a independently owned tackle shop and say, hey, I'm happy to come up here on a Saturday morning and help and demo some lures for you?
Heck yes. And I think the biggest thing that I've seen in the last few years is people not being willing to start at the bottom. And because, you know, there are so many amazing, talented anglers throughout this country. And there's only so many sponsorships that go around. And so I think there's always this level of expectation where people expect to start getting paid, or they expect to start getting a lot of free tackle, whenever, in essence, that's really probably not reality. And it doesn't have to do with the fact that they're not talented. It just has to do with the fact that there are so many talented people that the budgets are just only so big. So how you really get started, I think, is be willing to work, be willing to start at the bottom, be willing to, go and do seminars like you're talking about and get to know people, because a lot of people don't take that time or aren't willing to do that. They just think that they can literally fish.
Right.
And that's all they have to do. Well, there's so many other things that brands need you to do to represent them besides just fishing.
Right.
Because that's great. But do you have a social media presence? Do you make YouTube videos? Are you willing to work open houses or tackle shows or boat shows? Because all those things really add up. And so even before you approach a company, my suggestion would be start building those things outside. Start building your social media presence. Learn who you are, be who you are, be authentic. Number one, don't try to be someone else. And then work on YouTube videos, because here in the quarantine crisis, we've all had a lot more time than we normally do. And a lot of people have really taken this time to better themselves. So my big suggestion is take time to invest in yourself too. And you're investing in yourself whenever you make a video. Throw a GoPro on your boat. Take time to learn how to edit it, because, a lot of companies will be like, well, I want you to help me get content for my Facebook page, or maybe I need some shots to send to a dealer whenever we do our presentation on something. Well, if you have all those, you've created a value for yourself to that company or that brand that maybe someone else doesn't have. So there you are. You set yourself apart from a lot of other people that are in this industry right there. So you got another check mark by your name and you moved up the ladder a little.
That's right.
So all those are ways to just make yourself and your story stand out a little bit more from the crowd.
Gotcha. And, one of the most often asked questions that I get from listeners and viewers is how do I know, or how do I transition with a partner from them supplying me with product to being a cash sponsor? And when people ask me that, I always try to ask back to them. I put it back to them and say, what have you done for them? Right? I mean, what are you doing for them that makes you worth being having a cash deal? Because there's a lot of people that get product, and that is what fuels this industry. A lot of people, that's the payment system, and it helps a lot of people that need they need help with product. But you can't expect that, because I've been doing this for 2 years, now I should be able to get cash. You've got to be able to say, here's what I did for you, or what I'm willing to do for you, or here's an idea I have, and could we work a deal, right? Or am I wrong?
And it's a really hard conversation, because a lot of times people are loyal for years and they do have the product deal for years, and they're like, man, I'm not moving up here. Mm-hmm. But I do the same thing that you do. I always push it back to them. What have you done to create extra value for yourself? What have you done to step up? And a lot of people say, well, I won this tournament, or I finished really high this year. Okay, that's great. Number one, congratulations that they paid you at the tournament for that, and so you got your deal there. And, I think winning tournaments and placing high and all that is really important. I'm not taking away from that at all, but there's so much more than that. Building or winning the tournaments and placing high gets your authenticity there. But there are a lot of amazing people who've never won that really sell things for brands. And it's because of their willingness to work and their attitude, and they're fired up. So a lot of times people think if they're doing really good fishing, they don't have to do that. But that's not true, because there's a lot of really motivated people that have the same authenticity that can sell a lot of product. And so I always say, just make sure that you're not taking that for granted, and you're putting too much value on your finishes and not thinking that you have to work. Mm-hmm. Because a lot of people, they just get complacent, and I see it every day. to where they're just like, well, I'm doing good on the water. I don't have to work off the water. And that's no, because it's so important that you realize that what you put into it, you're going to get back. And working with the right company, that's true. Because if you just, if you're doing all this stuff though, off the water, like you're promoting and you're working all these events and you still stay at product level and you've done everything that they can, then maybe it's time for a change.
Right.
If they're not able to work with you, or they're not able to grow. But I believe that loyalty goes a long way, effort goes a long way, showing your passion, showing your willingness to learn new things and to grow off the water. They're all very important.
And you're right. I think that's the other thing that I try to explain to people a lot that don't know a lot about the fishing business is when you're a professional angler, you're also in sales and you're also in marketing. I mean, it's just a fact. There's very, very few, I can name a couple, but there's very, very few successful professional anglers that don't do any marketing or sales for their sponsors, and very, very few. But so I'm curious, if you're as a marketer yourself, what do you think makes a good marketer? So if I'm sitting at home going, I don't know a lot about marketing. I don't know if I'm a good marketer. What do you think it is? Is it creativity? Is it being resourceful? Is it being able to write? Is it being able to be good on video? Is it data? Is it your mindset? What is the most important thing about being a good marketer?
I think it is knowing your strengths and playing to those strengths and then finding that avenue and sticking with it, but not being afraid to grow another one. So I think writing is very important because if you're not able to get on a phone call with someone, you can tell your story through email. And so if you're not good at it though, someone that is.
Right.
So work with them. Don't be afraid to ask for help if you're struggling and you're wanting to present yourself properly to a company. Have someone help you. Have someone help tell your story. There's a lot of great people out there that are able to do that and willing. And I know you probably have friends, everyone has a friend that's really good at that probably.
That's right.
And I think attitude and mindset, being willing to meet new people, being able to communicate verbally is really important because you're going to meet a lot of people and you're going to have to be open and be able to talk. And a lot of people can't be afraid to meet a stranger, Right. You got to be out there. And right now, meeting people is a weird thing. But in this world that we're living in right now. But you got to be able to be yourself and let your passion show for what you're doing and how you're motivated. Another thing is be confident, but don't be so confident that it turns into arrogance because that really pushes a lot of people away. Because I always feel like if you're the smartest person or the best fisherman in the room, you don't have to tell anybody. They're going to figure that out just through talking to you. Like, you don't have to tell everybody that. Don't be afraid to talk about your accomplishments, but don't let that be the only thing that really that people remember about you. I hope it's something more about your character or the way you came across or the way you communicated that's better. But I think another key to being a good marketer is thinking about things differently than other people. Because if you're all thinking the same thing, you're not going to get anything different. And so we need to think of creative ways to set yourself apart, set brands apart. I sat here, I've had a lot of time to think, and the biggest times that I am the most creative, period. And creativity is huge for sure, but it's when I'm fishing. That's when I've come up with 99% of the ideas that I've done for brands and things that have really, I think, made a difference. And it's when I was on the water. So if you're out there and you're thinking of something cool or you're daydreaming and you're driving around, spend time on the water. Spend time doing things that make you better or open yourself up. because you're going to be your best self. And that's what everybody needs.
That's right. And I also love it when people on social media become more confident in who they are, and they start showing us who they are.
Yes.
And not just showing us pictures of the fish they caught, but showing us more about what their life is about and what's important to them and what connects with them. And that's how you develop a fan base. And that's how a brand develops.
It is. It's building an identity and letting people know who you are, what you stand for, what you're about, what makes you laugh. I mean, all of those things, that's what really connects people. Right. And now more than ever, brands need to be connected and people need to be connected. And that is letting people know who they are, not just pretty fixed pictures, because anybody can do that.
That's right. That's
literally.
Grip and grin is what I hear people call it.
Fish porn, grip and grin, and you're just like,
yeah, seen that before. So who's somebody, speaking of that, who's somebody that's under the radar that's doing that really well? Not a big time, seasoned pro, but who is somebody kind of under the radar that you're connected with that does that well?
Well, this guy's a seasoned pro, but I still think he's under the radar, and that's Todd Castledine. And it's because he built himself in Texas fishing. And so I worked with Todd, and I think what's cool is just to see where he started. He was a Texas fisherman. He fished weekend tournaments the majority of the time, hardly ever left Texas, except to go to Oklahoma and Louisiana. Well, he started fishing FLW Tour, and he's like, what I need to do. And he really connected with some people on YouTube videos and learning how to take pictures and stuff of his own, and got really motivated. Now he puts out the coolest content.
Really?
And things that really help people learn. And it's funny because he was a guy who made his living purely fishing. And then to see him embrace the other side of it, I mean, it just shows what you can do if you're motivated. And I think that is the coolest thing, just to see how he's developed.
Well, I don't know him, but I will definitely go follow him, because anybody that you're impressed with, I want to see. I've
enjoyed it. Like, he caught a 10-pounder earlier this year on camera. But one of the funniest ones is he was fishing last year, and he hit a wasp's nest.
Oh.
And those wasps attacked him. And he had to jump in the water, and I about died laughing. I mean, and so you want to see these things, like these funny things that happen to people in the water, because they do. And it allows you to be part of not just the tournament fishing. I mean, we want to see, I want to see the crazy things that happen, because I've had crazy things happen, and I really think those are hilarious.
Oh, agreed. I mean, there's always so many, you're right. There's just always so many crazy things that happen on the water. And another thing that I tell people is, think about when you're at a party and somebody says, I want to introduce you to my friend Melinda. She fishes tournaments. And then people start to talk to you, and the stories that you tell that resonate the most, usually they're about some crazy things that have happened to you in the outdoors that other people have not experienced. And they're always so fascinated with that, right? And that's the kind of storytelling that we need to do.
Oh, I agree. I used to run Costa Bassfishing Instagram, and I would have to gather content constantly from it. Like, I started it from scratch. And people would be like, man, what I need to do to get interest on social media. And I'm like, if you think it's cool and you fish all the time, everybody else is going to think it's cool.
That's right.
So that should be your meter. Like, if you think this picture's cool or what happened to you is hilarious, and you spend however many days on the water a year, everybody else is too, because that's something that doesn't happen all the time, or it's just super weird, or it's comical.
Mm-hmm.
Like forgetting your plug and then having to dive in the water. I mean, those things are funny.
Right.
I mean, and it's reality. Like, we all do crazy things, sometimes stupid, that we aren't proud of. But it's funny. So don't be afraid to be weird and humbled, because you didn't do everything right. Nobody does. I mean, that's what makes it more real and more engaging.
You are so right about that. What lights you up right now about the fishing world? What gets Melinda Hayes excited?
Oh, goodness. I think it is that there are so many outlets for us all to fish. I mean, if you want to fish, you can go fishing, and you can fish a night tournament. You can fish weekend tournaments. You can fish. There's 3 big tours now. You can dream big, and it's all possible. It's
Right.
about what you make it. And I think what's been cooler to me in all of this quarantine is that I have seen more people fishing this year than I've ever seen in my life.
Really?
I mean, from crappie fishing to brim fishing to catfishing to bass fishing. If you go by a public boat ramp in the South, I mean, I know in the South, some places in the North didn't have the luxury, they closed boat ramps, but there's people everywhere. And there's people that have never been fishing before that are fishing now. And I just hope that we can use this momentum that has happened during this COVID crisis to really fire up fishing again. Like, hopefully we can help people continue to fall in love with fishing and get more people out there, because at the end of the day, if more people are competing or more people are just fishing and buying tackle, that allows more companies that have more budget to take care of the guys who are wanting to do it for a living. So we all win if more people are involved and more people are loving it.
Well, and not only that, but, I know you'll agree with me, Melinda, when I say this, but some of the most meaningful things in my life have happened to me while I was fishing. And so when my whole career, I have been somehow involved in my mind of trying to get more people to experience fishing. And the reason why that's important to me is because I know how valuable it's been in my life. And I want other people to experience that and experience that same meaningful value of what happens when you spend the day outdoors.
Oh, I agree. You see things that you would never see.
Right.
I mean, I watched a crane yesterday dive on a crappie 10 foot in front of me and eat that crappie. And I was like, that circle of life just happened right in front of me. I mean, like, how epic is that? And I've had a beaver almost hit in my boat. I had a turkey almost land in my boat. There's just all kinds of crazy, incredible things. I've got to witness the pure joy of my little girls catching their first fish and then jumping in the live well with fish. There's all these amazing things that you can only experience outdoors, and they can't be replicated. I think the coolest thing about fishing is that no day is ever the same. I mean, every day you're going to experience something different, whether it's going to be the weather or the view when you get up, that sunrise or that sunset, to what you experience daily on the water. And I think just realizing that not every day you're going to catch them, but those days make you better too. So don't be afraid to fail.
Great advice there. One more thing I'll say is I tell people that don't fish all the time. I tell this all the time. As I've spent and my whole life, I've spent an above average amount of time outside, as you have too, I'm sure, and outdoors. Every single time I spend a significant amount of time outdoors, I see something I've never seen before.
Oh,
definitely. And it's so magical that sometimes I'll be at the end of a hike or the end of a boat trip or the end of a fishing trip, and I'll go, I haven't seen my thing yet. And then I won't leave until I find something that I've never seen before. Right. And I tell friends that too. Like I have a lot of guy friends who have the women in their life aren't as experienced in fishing as you and I are. And they come to me to say, I really want to fish with my guy. And that's one of the things I tell them is you'll get to see things you've never seen before and look for it. Go out there and look for it.
Right. There's so many nuggets. Like, even if fishing isn't your thing, I mean, there's so many things that you're going to be able to gain from just the experience of spending time outdoors with the person that you love, period.
100%. Okay, we're going to take another quick break, and we're going to come back and wrap things up with Melinda. I told you she was going to be awesome, y'all. You can see how awesome she is. Be right back. I really want to hear from you to know what kind of questions you have and how I can serve you best in this podcast. The easiest place to reach me is probably at Facebook or Instagram, where you can find me as Fishing Business Podcast, or on YouTube, but you'll have to search for me there by typing in Fishing Business Podcast. Holla! We're back on the Fishing Business Podcast with our guest today, Melinda Mize, who is a marketer that has been at some of the big brands in fishing like Pradco and Costa Del Mar and Huk Performance Apparel. And hopefully she'll be back at Huk Performance Apparel in just a few months when her furlough is over because of this stupid COVID virus. But Melinda, we talked about this a little bit. How does a newcomer stand out to you? Is it all those things that we just talked about in the last pod, where he comes to see you at events, he talks to you, he shows you how different he is, he builds a social media following? What's the number one way someone can stand out for you?
Definitely. I think that having everything together.
Yeah.
Knowing who they are 100% and being able to tell their story to me. And knowing where they want to go. So, because you see that they're willing to work and put effort into showing you, right, and then that they're motivated, and so they're going to try to grow. And then you also see that they have a passion to try to work too. So, but all those things really help someone stand out, because I get a lot of emails, and I've gotten a lot of emails through the years, and people don't even spell sponsorship right. Don't do that. You've got to think about this as a job. So as a job interview, how do you show up for a job interview? You want to be your best self. You want to put your best foot forward. You wear different clothes. You have a resume. You build it. You put in effort to get ready. Do that for bass fishing too. Mm-hmm. People don't. They contact you on social media and go, "Hey, will you sponsor me?" Don't do that.
Oh, no.
Don't. Because a lot of times, people in the industry, we have a life too. We have families, whatever. That's our time on social media. It might be our time to unwind, watch crazy videos, keep up with kids, our friends' kids or whatever. That's our time. Mm-hmm. Put in the effort and the work to find them, contact companies, be like, "Hi, can I have the information for your marketing department? I'd really like to send them some information." Put in that effort. It really goes a long way, because it shows that you respect that person too. And I think respect, effort, all that really accounts for something.
Certainly does. Who's your favorite person or brand to follow on social media?
Luke Duncan.
Oh, really?
I know that's crazy. He's just super authentic. He's outspoken, which I love. He has the Travel and Circus podcast that he does, and I just really enjoy it because he says everything that you ever dream that you might could say. He says it, and he talks to really interesting people. So I really enjoy him just because he talks about his family. He's completely real. You get to know him, and you feel like you know him at the end of the day. And he doesn't treat it with kitty gloves. He just is super real. And I like that about people. I like people who aren't afraid to be themselves, because we all have quirks. We all have things that make us who we are. Just don't be afraid to be that person. Embrace it. And I think that's what he does really well. And I love Gerald Swindle. Gerald's another one of those, him and Lulu, their adventures. Holy moly. That man can take a normal conversation and you're dying. You're like, well, how did you come up with that? He could have been a stand-up comedian. So those people really make me laugh, and laughing is really important. So
do you know Gerald's dad?
Yes. Oh my goodness, Tommy.
Another one. Where the apple doesn't fall far from the tree. Best business advice to somebody just starting out.
The number one thing is don't be afraid to fail. I said that a while ago, but goodness, like with me, it wasn't easy to get started in this industry. I got discouraged. I almost tried to go to law school. Goodness, I can't imagine that now. I have failed in marketing plans. I've failed during, getting jobs that I wanted or whatever. Just don't be afraid of that, because those no's make you better. I mean, I failed getting sponsorships, or maybe I lost a sponsorship, because I've done that too in my fishing career. But those guys embrace that and know that it happens for a reason. And I know that's a really trite saying, but it's real. I mean, it makes you better because it makes you really look internally of how you can be better. And so you have to be able to fail, get back up, dust yourself off, and be better for it. So that would be my biggest business advice. And that's so not easy, for people to just go, okay, I'm going to fail. You're not going to every time. That's the beauty of it. You're going to succeed, and you're going to be like, wow, I did do this, but it made you work harder, and it makes you appreciate it a lot more whenever you actually get to where you want to go.
And you have to also really evaluate what failure is. I mean, I think everybody has a different measure for that, because just because you didn't get a sponsorship or you didn't get a job, that's not necessarily a failure. As you said, you never know what that's going to lead to. And your mindset and how you think of it can really change what it leads to.
Yes. You've got to look at everything. You've got to find the positive in absolutely everything. And I think that that's something that Corona has taught me even more too. And that is look at everything on the positive side. Yeah, maybe you didn't get this, but you're going to figure out that, hey, what you do get, you might have opened a different door through that. So I just think that that's a big one. And the other thing is just really focus on communication. And that is verbal, written, your body language. I mean, how you talk to people, and really look at people. All of those things are you, and sending your messages and telling your story and letting people know who you are. So focus on those things too.
Melinda, when's your next tournament?
It is next weekend, the 31st of May.
Oh.
And it is at Lake Millwood. I'm fishing one called Mr. Bass of Arkansas. I love the name Mr. Bass.
I'm familiar.
I think it's awesome. So they just rescheduled it. Life is finally trying to get back to more of our new normal here. And they just rescheduled that one last night. And then I think I have 3 tournaments in June. So it's going to be action-packed rest of the year, because we have the same number of tournaments all fit into
a smaller window. Well, I can't wait to see you. I can't wait to see Melinda Mize win Mr. Bass of Arkansas.
No, how cool would that be? I am so want one of those trophies.
It'll happen. I'll be pulling for you, girl. I'll be pulling for you. Thanks for being with us today, Melinda. I really appreciate it. I know you've got a lot to do, and you could have spent your time doing something else, but I hope I hope everybody understands how generous you are with your wisdom and advice, and it really means a lot to me, and I'm sure it means a lot to the people that are listening.
Thank you so much. Thanks for doing this and having me on.
Okay, good stuff there, y'all. Here's some key takeaways from my perspective. Number 1, a great way to network is to go to the big tournaments and meet the brand managers who are on site. I've seen Melinda at a lot of tournaments. She's always in motion and always talking to someone new. So I know she's giving you good advice there. Find a way to go to these events, and then find a way to introduce yourself to the people working in the sponsors booths. Here's another one. Be willing to work and have a good attitude. I can't emphasize strongly enough how important this is. You have to show brands or prospective employers that you're willing to work to put in more time and effort than the hundreds of other people that are asking that same person to hire them. Think about how you can stand out and show the right people that you're a hard worker, you've got a positive attitude, and you're willing to go the extra mile. Know your strengths and play to those strengths. It seems like we talk about this every week, but it's so important, y'all. Don't try to be anyone else, but be uniquely you. It might take some effort to really define what that is because it's your personal brand and you don't develop a brand overnight. But you can do it. And if you keep listening to the Fishing Business Podcast, we're going to continue to try to help you get comfortable with doing it. That's it for today. Please subscribe to the podcast and leave a review wherever you're listening to this. It's really important to help me get this going. Head over to fishingbusinessschool.com and subscribe to my email list so I can let you know every time I have some new good stuff to share. I've really started to hear a lot from a lot of you, and I appreciate your feedback and your insights a lot. Thank you so much for that. I love hearing from you. I'm going to sign off now in the way that Jerry McInnes always signed off his TV show, The Fishing Hole, by dedicating this to my dad, because he always had time to take me fishing. See you next time, y'all.